The Adjusted Life Podcast, where we aim to simplify your day to elevate your life. Hey, welcome back, guys. So, Bryan, I'm actually really excited about this episode in particular, goal setting. I know it's something that you're actually really, really good at. We've talked a lot. Sometimes. Yeah. But anyway, we've talked so much about this, you and I, ad nauseum, and I know you've helped me a good bit. So I kind of want to just dive right in. I think a lot of people, as we're kind of wrapping up the first quarter of the year, I know New Year's resolutions is always a huge thing, right? It gets a lot of press or attention, so to speak, just because I think it's a very finite time. Like, January 1st year, let's set some goals. So first I want to kind of talk about, in your opinion, why it's so important to have goals, and then what are some of your goals, but also why a lot of people don't necessarily follow through with that. But we'll start first with just, why is it important to have goals?
Yeah. And that's a good point. And those three things definitely can be of help to people. Like you said, January 1st is always like a big, I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to start doing that. And a lot of it has to do with people's habits, right? Mm-hmm. So in order for them to hit the goal, they're going to have to create a new habit. And so I think when people sit down, first off, you need to write your goals out. You need to write your goals, write them in as much detail as possible, and then revisit those goals frequently. And so I think in the beginning of the year, it's easy to be on fire, but it's around the end of the first quarter, statistically, people are going to just get away from those goals. They forget why they set those. And so that's going to be something that we can dive into. You got to have the why, So when I write down goals in the beginning of the year, say my goal is to exercise 3 times a week.
Okay.
That's a good goal. But to go further, it's why did I set that goal? And it's to become healthier, or maybe it's a weight goal that I have, or maybe it's a strength goal that I have. So ultimately you want that goal to lead to the why you're doing it, so that you can, 1, measure it, but 2 is you can refocus around hey, how am I doing on this goal, right? If you just set a goal, I want to exercise 3 times a week, that's easy to fail, because if you miss, one day and you continue to miss one day each week, you're probably just going to stop in general. Because as people, as humans, we really don't enjoy failure, right?
Sure, yeah.
I don't know many people that enjoy failure, but you can learn from failure. So I think at the same time as those goals, set them, right? But don't forget them. Put them in front of you. Put them every day I brush my teeth, and every day I can look at my goals. So some people write it on the mirror. I don't do that. I put it into a notepad that I know I'm going to look at pretty often.
Would Shelby kill you if you wrote it up on the mirror?
No. I bet you she would be she'd probably like that, because then there's some accountability.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, no, she wouldn't mind that. I mean, now if we took up the whole mirror, my kids would be like, whoa, we can write on the mirror now.
Oh, yeah, that's
so fair. The kids would probably be they'd be excited. We'd have writings all over our mirror, because I already write on all the walls.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, I mean, set that goal, have your why, and then visit it frequently. So mine's in my quiet time book. So I almost have this little affirmation that I kind of read about myself. And then I read this, just this, what I want my day to look like. I'm healthy. I'm thankful for that. I'm serving people. I'm serving well. Stewarding, my time and my finances the way that it's supposed to be stewarded. And it's just this paragraph that I read to kind of refocus me, especially coming into a work week. I want to go to the office, and I want to be a leader, and I don't want to think about all the things that stress me out. I'd rather think of the things that are more positive.
Yeah, that are guiding you. Yeah, keep you focused. Of course,
that keep me focused.
So just to kind of nail down, so when you say frequently, because that could mean a few different things, right, to different people. What is frequently for you?
Daily.
Daily, okay.
Yeah, I like to revisit goals daily.
Love that.
And I've learned that you can't be too hard on yourself. Say if you miss, don't just abandon it, right? I can't do that. Maybe refocus your goal. So say if you're I'm going to work out 3 times a week, and that is literally impossible. But what is work out to you? Maybe it's go for a walk.
Well, 3 times a week is literally impossible is what you're saying.
Yeah. Say somebody's I just don't have the time. Say you have a new baby. Say life just shifted. Something happened where it kind of took away your time, where you can spend, an hour at the gym, that's what you consider a workout. Well, maybe your workout looks different, but again, you can always change how you're achieving the goal, but I wouldn't say just like nix the goal. Like, well, I can't do it. Like, let's get rid of it. And let's just, we'll start fresh next month, because it's a habit again. Right. So if you get out of the habit, it's going to be harder to reform that habit.
Yeah. And the analogy that just popped into my mind, and it doesn't even have to do with exercise, even though it's a great kind of example, because I think a lot of people the new year.
Yeah, that's why I thought of exercise. I'm like, the gyms are packed January 1st.
No, I think that's a great one, because we can kind of dive into that, because we both exercise ourselves.
It is funny with the gym though, because like people that have a habit of going to the gym all the time, come January 1st, they hate it.
Oh yeah, well, because
they're like, everybody's in the gym, and I get that, but it's one of those things too. It's like, it's cool. It's like we should encourage those people. Like if you see an unfamiliar face at the gym, like maybe encourage that person, because maybe that is their goal.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't have any accountability. And it's like, I know you've gotten friends at the gym that we go to. And it's like when you're not there, or when I disappeared, they're like, "Where's that guy at?"
They still ask where you're at. Yeah. The owner of the gym actually was asking where you were.
Is he alive?
Yeah. It's like, where did he move? Did he leave?
Yeah. But like it's an accountability at that point from people that you didn't necessarily know. So
yeah. Well,
it's funny.
And then it becomes, for me, I enjoy that part of it too, right? And like instead of just the working out that I get out of it and the goals that I have, it becomes, yes, an accountability, but a community.
Yeah.
Another like group of friends and individuals that, I enjoy seeing and talking with. But the analogy that I was going to reframe is, imagine, driving a car, right? And you have a starting place and you have a destination. Well, along that route, most of the time, there's going to be different changes in speed, right? So your speed limit's going to change, from anywhere from, well, for some people, it's over 100 miles an hour, right? But legally, 70, 75, and you might even get into some areas where you have to go 25.
Yeah.
And anywhere in between. And I think that's where the throttling back on the goal, not just stopping. Like you wouldn't just stop your car, right? And say like, well, I quit. Some people can, I guess, right? But you're not going to get to your destination. So sometimes it might look like you're going at the pace a little bit slower, because that speed limit is limiting you from going faster. Mm-hmm. And that speed limit in that example would be if you have kids, if you have a busy schedule, if you have, a life crisis, an injury, you name it.
Yeah.
Right. Something pops up in life. Don't just stop, but just throttle back. And then when you have the opportunity to kind of throttle up, if life allows it, then you throttle up and you go a little bit faster. So I like that analogy when I kind of explain that to some people. I haven't quite used that one exactly, but I kind of look at it like that. Don't stop, but just throttle back and kind of adjust. You may have to take alternate routes.
But the ultimate thing is your goal is to get to a certain place when you're driving.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's where like your goal has to be driven by like that end result, right? Mm-hmm. Because you need to get there. You need to pass the finish line. The cool thing is when you pass the finish line, you can reset your goal, right? So like say if your goal is to get to a certain weight, then you get there. Once you get to that weight, then think of a bigger why. Like, okay, why do I want to be this way? And then like, what now can I accomplish?
So let's dive into that a little bit. Okay. So for you had mentioned quiet time, like devotion. What's your why?
It's to recenter me. So, I got out of the habit of opening my daily reading, which is going to be the Bible, a devotional, but then just quiet time to think and to let my mind kind of, almost go through the day. How am I gonna perform today? Mm-hmm. And I would say like it's so that I'm unrattled, right? So like when I go through the day, I don't want those little things to stress me out and take me away from what needs to be accomplished. Especially as chiropractors, man. We have serious things that people come in with that I don't want my personal life to be affecting what their outcome is. Right. So by having that morning quiet time, it allows me to just drop everything, right? And be able to go into the day just so freely able to think and to function and to not be scattered.
Not be distracted.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're dropping in. You're being present.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
To serve. And it's like, it can be, there are heavy days and there are easy days, but it's like at the same time, it's like each day matters, especially when it comes to the practice, but then my family too. And I had a goal of I tried this no social media past, it's like 7:00, or like mine was like when I got home, and I've failed miserably in that goal. Like I think that's a good goal for a lot of people, is like figure out what takes the most of your time and try to get that time back, because time is something that it's finite, right?
Yeah,
like
you
only have so much of it. And like even doing this podcast, it's like, okay, I need to hold myself accountable to that. It's the end of the first quarter. I've slipped terribly on this. I'll be laying in the bed and scrolling. And it's like, you don't realize how much time you spend on that until you're actually aware of like, holy smokes, like I just scrolled for an hour.
Yeah.
But then when somebody asks me about something, I'm like, I don't have time to do this task.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I just spent an hour doing mindless stuff. And I really feel like that's the purpose of social media. It's almost a distraction. And so it takes us away from like being present, which that's where the dropping in the morning, the quiet time helps me refocus.
Yep.
But it's like, so coming out, and it's like, it's okay to fail, but notice you're failing and try to change it. Try to get back into that groove.
Yeah.
If it means something to you.
Yeah, and kind of pushing forward. And again, too, like there's, we should give people grace, and we should give ourselves grace. For instance, like yesterday, I went on a bike ride, and I came back, and there was some stuff that I had to do at the house, some chores, but I just kind of took, 30 minutes and just laid on the couch, because I was kind of just feeling like I needed to close my eyes for a second. And, after I got up, I was kind of hustling around because I needed to get some stuff done. But I thought to myself, like, you know what, I needed that. Like, I needed that 30 minutes. And that doesn't mean that I took the whole day and just did absolutely nothing, which sometimes that's okay to do. But just because you're not necessarily always, grinding, doesn't mean that you're not doing the right thing. Sometimes it is okay to just take a beat and relax and then get back to it. But like you said, if you start noticing those habits of, I'm social media scrolling for hours on end, right? That's that time you can't get back. And then it's going to be harder to break that habit the longer that goes.
Well, you almost feel a sense of shame if you like when you know you should be doing something and you're not doing it. I call it like the death by paper cut, right? Like one paper cut's not going to kill you, but it hurts, right? And so even again, as I'm always relating it, kind of to our profession, because we deal with so many different aspects of people's lives. It's like sometimes people just have so much anxiety because they're doing something that they know is taking them away from their goal.
Yeah.
But then they're like, well, I'll start doing this next year. Like that's the craziest thing, is when people get to the end of the year and they're like, I'm going to start this January 1st, but right now I'm going to do it, because obviously they have a goal not to do it, right? Because they already foreshadow that, but yet they're still doing it. So there's no way they can feel good about doing it in the present if they know that's something they don't want to do in the future.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so like, I think that's a tough one to swallow, but I think it's one of those things too. It's like, you gotta hold yourself accountable. It's great to have other people in your circle that can kind of be your accountability partner, but you need to care more about that goal than anybody else.
So how does somebody do that? How does somebody hold themselves more accountable?
I think writing it down and again, revisiting it
daily,
and your why. Like if your why is strong enough, then hopefully it doesn't shake you from doing it.
So let's kind of really nail down this why. Yes, because let's use an actual tangible example. So we'll just use exercise, because, like I said, that's a big one for people, especially the New Year's. So let's say somebody comes to you, right, and says, "Hey, I set a goal. I want to work out 3 times a week." Let me just ask you plainly: is that itself a good goal? And you can say yes or no.
I would say no. It's too broad.
Okay, so then let's hammer deeper. So then, what would you, if it was your goal now? Right? What would you tell yourself if you just said, hey, Bryan, I want to work out 3 times a week?
Yeah.
How does somebody deduce down into their why from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first I would go into, I want to exercise 3 times a week for, minimum of 30 minutes, right?
Okay.
To give myself some grace. And that can look like, and you can write this down, it can look like a walk, it can look like weight training, it can look like jogging, running, whatever your exercise, because exercise for everybody is so much different,
It's subjective.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so like, I would put like what exercise looks like to you. So like if walking a mile is exercise, which it is, for you, you can put like that activity in there, but just that way you have different ways to hit that. Because say like you didn't get to the gym, the physical gym, and you don't have weights at home. Well, you're going to go for a walk, right? Everybody can walk the neighborhood or walk up and down the driveway, things like that, or do something within their house where air squats, sit-ups, something.
So they're moving for 30 minutes.
Yeah, they're moving for 30 minutes.
So what is now what's the purpose of that? So keeping like deconstructing that. So okay, I'm going to work out 3 times a week. Okay, it's going to be 30mi
Then
and
what
I'm
is
just going
the
to
health
move.
Goal?
Sure. If they say I want to be healthier.
Yep.
Is that
look like?
Yeah. Is that a good enough goal?
Again, I would go into like what is healthier. Like if somebody's unhappy with their body appearance, it's I want to fit into these jeans that I wore 2 years ago. Or
Okay.
I want to be X amount of weight. I don't love weight because I think it can be very like
Misleading.
Yeah, and it can force people to start doing things that are actually unhealthy.
Sure.
When you just look at weight as like a metric, so then you start losing weight in ways that is not very healthy.
How about we reframe it to
I always like
body composition?
I love that.
Right.
Body composition, and a lot of gyms will have like those composition machines, which are fine for like especially goal setting.
Sure.
Maybe you're looking at body fat, you're looking at symmetry of your body,
Lean muscle.
But I love like everyone's got like that favorite pair of jeans or a shirt maybe that doesn't fit them, and they're like, what, I want to be able to wear that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's where you're truly starting to see the fruit of what you've put effort into.
Yeah.
And so and that could be like a great, but then the big why could be like the future would be like, well, I want to be able to like my why of being healthy right now is because I want to be healthy when I'm 60, and 70 and 80. And I want to always be able to do the things that I love doing without saying like, oh, I can't hike that mountain because I can't walk that far. Like I don't want my health to limit me in anything that's here on this planet, on this earth while I'm living, right?
You want to be able to say no to things, not have it not be attainable.
Of course, or like, hey, I want to go travel. Oh, I can't because I'm on this medication or I'm on this thing. Like, I just don't want that setback,
Yeah.
So I'm trying actively right now while I'm healthy to avoid future situations that could arise.
So when and this is going to be an anecdotal question for you. So when you're, because we used to work out in the mornings, 4 a.m. Now you do your devotional at that time. So you still have, I know you still go to the gym, right? It may not be as much as you used to, but when you're feeling like, man, I'm just too tired, you go at lunch now.
Yeah.
Right? So when we've had a crazy morning shift, right? Or you had a rough night, the night before with sleeping or scrolling too much. What pulls you out of the office, or what pulls you out from wanting to not go to the gym to going to the gym in that moment?
Yeah.
Where do your thoughts go? Do your thoughts even go anywhere?
Yeah. I mean, it always goes to like, I don't want to do this, but I know if I do it, I will feel better after. Like I will enjoy the after effect. And I think that's the great thing about working out is, when people go and work out, it's hard to exercise, right? And we've talked about this in recent podcasts, but it's one of those things. I don't think many people leave the gym and say, man, I really regret moving or doing that. But also my exercise now as spring kind of comes is I like to walk when I'm golfing, so I got a push cart and I'll walk, or if I do 9, I'll carry my bag. And I think of that as it is exercise, but it's a different form. It's not like your traditional gym approach or doing your movements like you would for an actual workout, but carrying my bag, I'm walking, it's hot out, like that's my workout sometimes. And I love it because I get to golf and I get to exercise at the same time.
Yeah, and like you said before, because you had mentioned to me, you're starting to walk, at the golf course more than ride, right? All that is for longevity. It sounds like longevity and health.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And I think that too, like, I think we need to hit on the fact of like your goals can change. That's okay. Like, if you hit your goal or you fail your goal, like say like it's just a different season, well, revamp your goal. Don't just sit there and put a goal down that you can achieve. That's not gonna motivate you at all. You know,
it's gonna lead to your failure inevitably, and then displeasure, and you're gonna stop.
Oh yeah, you're just gonna nix it. And we had a great sermon on 2 Sundays ago where a pastor at our church, Pastor David, was talking about like the Bible in a year, and he's just like, that's hard to do. Like you can do it, but it's hard to do and grasp everything in there. And I was doing the Bible in a year and I was like 21 days behind at this point, and I'm like, oh my God.
Pretty daunting.
Yeah. And it's like, sometimes you like want to rush through it, but like, that's not the goal, right?
Yeah, is the goal to get it done. Or is it to actually, attain something from it?
Yeah. And the goal for me right now is to attain it. And so it's like, I had to just nix that goal of like, I'm not going to do it in a year, nor should, that was a goal I set kind of that put me up for failure. But I realized it, changed my thought, and set a new goal.
So short-term versus long-term, right? I think everybody has heard that at some point in their life, short-term, long-term goals. Do you think it's good to have one? Do you think it's good to have both? Should you have one before the other? How do you go about doing that yourself?
I think both, because the more that you put out there, the more that you'll grasp and you'll be able to attain. As far as like, it's amazing how when you put that thought into the universe, like, I'm going to do this in 1 year, I'm going to do this in 5 years, I'm going to do this in 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's freakishly accurate when you get there. If you put the work in, right? You got to do step by step.
Sure.
But how when you put the work in 5 years, you look at that goal and you're like, man, I'm like way past that. Mm-hmm. So I think like short term is great because short term is going to lead you to your long term. So I think both are going to be vital to like just the success of you hitting your goal.
Would you say that starting out with a long-term goal first and then backing it into a short-term goal, would that be the way that
if your brain thinks like that, I think that's a great idea if it thinks like that. I actually usually set like short goals and then I work my way into the further goals.
Do you have an example of that?
Well, the office was one that I set tons of goals. Me and my wife, we set tons of vision goals.
Did you do a long-term first and then short-term or?
No, it was like short-term. So it was like the quick success of the office. So what could that look like as far as what's our goal for the first, quarter? What's our goal for the first year? What's our goal for 5 years, 10 years? Because like for me, the office is intertwined with my family goals.
Sure.
So like our goals around the office is we wanted to create success in a place for people to experience health at a different level.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can put a metric on that. Like we're serving X amount of people. And then it's like, okay, now that we've been able to achieve that, it's, well, what is the ultimate goal? We want more freedom. Mm-hmm. We want to be able to have more time with our family and our kids. And that's where our hours come in. Like I was just talking to Brandon about this. It's like, we could always add more hours into the day, but that's not our goal. We want to be present when we serve here, mm-hmm. and then we want to be able to have free time with our family.
Yeah, work-life balance.
Yeah, because I'm a husband, I'm a dad, and I'm a chiropractor. I want to give my all in each of those situations, right? And you and I both know it's like, it's hard to do chiropractic. Those full days, they can whoop us.
Yeah, they can. Yep.
And so we, just as much as we need to make sure that we preserve that for ourselves, our patients deserve our best.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? And in my life, it looked like the schedule that we have right now. I love it. We can serve at a high level, but we also have some free time.
Yeah.
It gives us a lot of flexibility with like notes. But yeah, we visioned all of that day one that we came in. And now we're on year 6. And it's amazing to look back and see what has been able to come of that.
Yeah.
And our goals, now they're just changing, right? So our goals now is, just looks a little bit different than it did when we opened. But the common theme is more freedom.
Sure. For
our family, for us, and then also, again, serving at a high level.
Yeah, serving at a high level and being as efficient as we can with the hours that we serve. And for you and I know we meet pretty regularly, obviously doing this podcast, but also, we meet and discuss a lot of the goals, for the office. So let's kind of give the listeners, maybe if you have anything else, like one last kind of, I'd say piece of advice, simply to say, hey, here's what could potentially help you. And then let's leave them with a challenge.
Yeah.
We'll each leave them with a challenge. So first, is there anything, that you want to kind of just leave the listener with, like, hey, something simple, hey, start with even a grocery list, right? Like just write down your grocery list, even if you always have, it in your head. It just helps to kind of create that muscle memory.
Of putting it on paper.
Putting it on paper, yeah. Do you have anything that's simple that you want to kind of leave the listener with?
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to what we do here with new patients is, write your goal out, right?
Yep.
But then write out the why, right?
Yeah.
So if it's...
The why is huge.
Yeah, and just write that there, we dig deep on goals here. it's vital to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have low back pain. Well, what do you want? Well, I want to not have low back pain. Well, if you don't have low back pain, what can that do for you?
Yeah.
Right? Because we ultimately want to get the practice member to understand that, hey, if we get you to this point, you can do this activity better. And that's fun for us. Like when patients hit goals, I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So do that in your own life. So if it's a financial goal, it's a why. Okay. Well, I want to be promoted. Why do you want to be promoted? Because it's a higher pay.
Yep.
Well, why does a higher pay matter? Well, because then I can, serve this, or I can tithe this, or I can,
Provide
take
more
a
for my
vacation.
family.
Yeah, I can set a vacation fund with it.
Yep.
I can pay my car off. Like that's sweet, because you will get to that point, and when you cross that or check it off, then it's like, that's the value. It's not just a blind, oh, I worked out 3 days a week, check.
Yeah.
That gets old, no one, that's where people stall, I think. It's like just a check. It's like there's no warm and fuzzies. What do you say? Rock my jollies? You say, that doesn't rock
yeah, it doesn't rock my jollies. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with the world.
Yes, the jollies. So find something that hits the jollies, man. Like you just got to do it, because then that will motivate you every single day, and it will affect your decision making. So to go back to the question that you asked me, is like something simple. Yes, just write it out. Write the why behind it.
Love it.
Even if it's a paragraph, I don't care.
Yeah. It can be as shorter as long as you want.
Your journal, just write it and then read it. That way, when you go throughout the day, if somebody asks you to do something and it doesn't go with your goal, you're going to say no.
It makes your decisions to stay on path a lot easier.
Yeah. Don't wait till January 1st.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people
stop that mindset.
Yeah. Just start today.
Start today.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that will also, it will just start creating that habit, I don't think anybody says I'll wait till January in March, but I hope not.
Hope not.
Yeah, but
Some
I'm sure
people do.
I'm sure that people think like, okay, 2026 is my year, baby.
January 2nd. Oh, 2020. I missed it. 2026 is going to be it.
I'm going to stop scrolling in 2026.
Yeah.
I got 8 months, baby.
Yeah, to get ready. 364 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like that's your challenge.
Yeah.
To people
what about
as well.
you? What do you have
write it down? Yeah, I would say that I'll challenge people to, and the number is arbitrary, but I'm gonna challenge them to pick out a few goals in different areas of their life.
I love that.
So I have a good friend. We have a good friend who he's got a religious goal, he's got a financial goal, and then he's got a health goal, right? And he's got specific goals for each of those compartments, and it helps him kind of keep that organized and categorized instead of just having a long list. I would encourage people to do that, whether it's, you could have the exact same one, religious, financial, health. For me, I have a personal goal and I have a professional goal. So, and within the personal, that's health and fitness fall into that, right? But also relationships, things outside of my profession. And then obviously my professional goal that you and I talk about a lot, what I want to accomplish as in my career, but also with this office. And so having those two compartments just help me, keep everything simple, right? And they're written down on the same sheet of paper, and I kind of see it with a line across, and it's hung up on my my wall, over my desk. So I should see it every day. And I'll go in there and occasionally, and I'll check some stuff off, and I'll make a new one, right? Cross off the old one, make a new one. So I would challenge people to, if they haven't already, is let's say they do have multiple goals, compartmentalize them out, or if they don't have any goals, to start there.
Start there.
Yeah. So, and like you said too, I think that's something that's great that you mentioned a few times is check it daily, right? Force yourself to check it daily. Make it a routine, whether it be, first thing you do when you get up in the morning, right? To kind of, center yourself, or do it at some point, maybe you finish your day with it and say like, hey, how did I do?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But I love the fact that writing it down, checking it daily, and then compartmentalizing them out.
Are your goals, you feel like, would you call them realistic?
Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's important?
Big time. Yeah. If I said, hey, I want to look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I think that would be very unrealistic.
Yeah. I think that too, because it's like anything. I think people in the world of social media, we see the luxury stuff, right? And so like they put on a goal, like I want to own a yacht and a private island. It's like, Okay, that can be a great goal, but that better be like a 20, 30-year goal. Now, what's your goal to be able to get to that point? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
What are the steps that are going to get you?
but I feel like that could be a point where people just stop too. They're like, well, I'm never going to have $1 million. So, I'm just not going to set a goal. It's
Sure.
like, well, you can still set a goal and maybe the $1 million is something that you desire, right? And that you long for, but it's like, what are some ways that you could get there? Like then you could work your way back, I guess. Like that would be a good thing. If you're set on like, I need $1 million, it's like, okay, that's a great goal. Yeah. How are you going to get there?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to quit my job. But like, okay, we'll think on that. Right. Mm-hmm. But like maybe as you're working, you're creating lines of revenue that are going to get you to the $1 million goal.
Yeah.
So that's good. I like that. Compartmentalize your goals. That way it's, you have some for professional and your personal don't mix.
Well, you and I hate to say like you keep it separate, but it makes it easier on yourself to not, be so entangled.
Yeah.
Right.
And don't let one consume the other.
Correct.
Kind of have a beautiful blend if necessary.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we'll end it on that, but let us know what you guys think. If you guys have any specific goals that you want to share with us, or if this helped you out at all, or if you're
already doing it,
like, or if you already
write something like, what are you doing and what's worked for you?
Yeah, we'd love to hear that, and we'd love to potentially share that with some of our other listeners.
Yeah.
So, yeah, appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.